campaign's policy discussions regarding Russia at the same time. I mean, that's a lot, but which is really quite crazy. So the letter says if the investigators are interested in the campaign's foreign policy plans, the Stein campaign is providing material related to those, and there was also additional material available publicly on the internet. So, they can get the foreign policy plans, but not just all the basic policy discussions. So maybe, I can't think about what they'd be talking about in those policy discussions, since they are policy discussions. Why they would just not say whatever, just take them. It's not a big deal. But, I don't know. If you give them everything and they still find nothing, point, laugh in their face and say, you guys are a joke. You should be investigating Donald Trump. And instead, you're investigating a Green Party candidate who happened to sit next to Vladimir Putin at a dinner. I don't think he even did that. She just sat next to someone at the same table as Vladimir Putin in a dinner at one point in RT in Russia. She gave an explanation for that, but I forgot what it was. It was a pretty sound explanation, to be honest. So Stein was also the party's presidential nominee in 2012. She traveled to Russia in 2015 and attended a dinner marking the 10th anniversary of RT. Vladimir Putin made an appearance at the event, and the committee also asked for communication related to any trips to Russia, including any discussion with Russian government officials, and the Stein campaign is willing to provide those. The request also calls for all communications with Russian persons or representatives of the Russian government, media, or business interests, including but not limited to any communications, discussions, or offers related to the opposition research from February 6, 2015 or present. So, the Stein's campaign told The Intercept that they have already provided to the committee all communications with people affiliated with the Russian government and the media, but not with all people of Russian descent in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. It's all Russian persons, I believe, is what it is. So, it seems to be quite a lot, to say the least. But, there is that whole situation. So, we will be looking into that. That's going to be something worth following. But because if she is transparent here and they find nothing, which, I have to expect that they will, you get to point and laugh in their face, as I said before. Like, what in the sand hell are you doing investigating me when you should be investigating Donald Trump and the people you are actually supposed to investigate about? Like, I don't get how Jill Stein really got dragged into this just because she'd won dinner meeting with the Russians concerning RT. So former Salt Lake City Mayor Rocky Anderson also attended the RT event in Moscow, the very same, and he believes the investigation into Stein's campaign is shameful. Somebody could have picked up the phone and asked her, did you have your way paid? Did you get anything of value out of this? They give you any instructions? Did they try to enlist you? Jeremy Scahill did ask her. He's host the podcast Intercepted for The Intercept. They didn't offer to pay me, she said. Here's the whole thing that she said. This was her entire answer. Let me just start with the mythology that this was an intimate round table. There were 11 people at the table. I think only 8 are shown in the picture because the angle is taken. But if you look closely, if you blow up the picture, you'll see there's a chair between Putin, and Michael Flynn, which was occupied by the head of RT. She happened to be introducing Putin at that moment. Putin and I think 3 rather strapping men kind of stormed in just before Putin was to give a speech, so they weren't really at the table for long, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 20 tops. Nobody introduced anybody to anybody. There was no translator. The Russians spoke Russian. The 4 people who spoke English spoke English. There was a guy sitting next to Flynn named Cyril Svoboda, who's a deputy prime minister of the Czech Republic. He spoke 3 languages. And what I read afterwards is he briefly translated between Flynn and Putin, and then amounted to, "Hi, how you doing?" Okay, that was it. And so that was a great conversation. Nobody else talked to anyone across the language barriers I could see. I assumed that these were Putin's bodyguards who came in with him. It turns out they weren't his bodyguards. There was like chief of his staff and communication, but no one cared to make an introduction. There was introductions. This wasn't intended to be a discussion of any sort. I spent the whole evening talking to the German former foreign minister sitting next to me, Willy Wimmer, and we had a very interesting conversation. But I think this was the only substantive conversation that took place at that table. And then Putin stands up to give a speech. Scahill says, yup. And does he return to the table? No. Then they walk out. He was basically there to give a speech. And this was not some kind of dinner meeting. Nobody ever met anyone. I didn't hear any words exchanged between English speakers and Russia. So that's pretty much it. There was some introductions made. There was some pleasantries. There wasn't really even some pleasantries exchange or actually introductions made that I actually read it. But it just seems so crazy. It seems so much of an overreaction that they are being dragged in on this. So, I mean, if it were me, I'd provide as much information as legally obligated of me to provide. And when they find nothing, point, laugh in their face, and say, what the hell are you doing? That's what I do. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's it for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. That's all the time we have. We will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. back at our normal time. It's Newsflash.